Beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. It's your favorite girl Patiti Sparkles, and I'm back at it again today with a new video, because today I am actually excited about this video. I am going to be sharing with you the cost of living in Ibadan. It has been a long time coming. A lot of people have actually been asking me this question, and I also know that I actually talk about it in passing, but I've never sit down to really give you dive inside it and give you all the information that you need. And also this video was also inspired by Bayo Adio. Bayo Adio is a Nigerian YouTuber based in Lagos, and it does amazing content about Lagos. It would help you see Lagos in another way. Even it's making me fond of Lagos now, but you know what, I'm an Ibadan girl for life. So now let's get into the video. Like every other city in Nigeria, every other developed city in Nigeria, there is always the high-end side and the middle class and the low-end side of a city. So just like Lagos, we have the highland, we have the mainland, and even on the mainland there are a lot of places that are very developed, and there are places that has zero development and stuff like that. So same thing happens here in Ibadan. So there are high-end side, there are developed sides, there are developing side, and on the developed side. So my budget, my estimations for your cost of living in Ibadan will be based on the developing and developed side of Ibadan. So the highland and the mainland extra. So we're going to start with accommodation, because that's what everybody wants to know. How much does it cost to live in Ibadan? So for accommodation, I'm going to be talking about three class: the self-contained, the room and parlor, then 2 to 3 rooms upward. For that, in developed areas, and these developed areas I'm talking about are Jericho, Bodija, Oluyole, Ring Road, Onireke, let's say some part of Akobo, just areas that are really developed. And what do I mean by developed? Like the good road, accessibility to a lot of social amenities, commercial areas, GRA areas that are inside estates, security, close proximity to the malls, the shop, the supermarkets and all that. So these areas, if you want to get yourself contained, you have to budget at least. Plus remember, things are getting more expensive, and Ibadan is developing really fast. A lot of new houses are coming. So accommodation in the really developed part, for your self-contained, you have to budget at least, I don't think you can see for any price lesser than that, except I want to sugarcoat it and say Ibadan is ridiculously cheap. You can't get accommodation lesser than 120,000 to 180,000 naira for self-contained. And these areas are amazing areas. You will live inside estate, the security will be there, good road, accessibilities to a lot of things. Okay, so these areas you have to budget 120 to 180. In fact, this kind of areas you probably live beside governor's house. I remember when I came to Ibadan, my first accommodation, the self-contained, I paid 180,000 naira. When I got to the office and I told people, oh, I got a place, and they were like, how much? I said 180. And are you living beside the governor? I said, to be honest, fun fact, I'm actually living right in front of the governor's house. For 180,000 naira, the house was really big. There is kitchen, there is my toilet in my room, and it's just safe. No neighbor is shouting, everybody is just living peacefully. So you have to budget between 120,000 to 180,000. But for developing areas, there are still some areas that are developing, and they are developing really fast. Places like Elebu, Akala, you can still get Tipa Garage, all those sides. You can get accommodation for self-contained for some parts of Bashorun, Akobo. Some developing part you will get accommodation self-contained. The least you will probably see is 100,000 naira. So now let's move to a room and parlor. So in developing areas, if you want to rent a room and parlor, please budget at least from 200,000 naira to 250,000 naira. I live in a room and parlor, and my rent is 250,000 naira. You cannot get it less for 200k if you want to live in a developed area a very secured area, good electricity, good road, accessibility to, you know, the commercial areas, you cannot get a room and parlor for less than 200,000. But if you want to stay at developing areas as Elebu, Akala, those places is not even developing again. They are running, the way they are developing is almost developed. But you can still get, if you still like within this year, you can still get accommodation, a room and parlor for, you know, 120,000, 150,000 naira. But these houses might not be in estates and will probably not have gates. Okay, they'll probably have gates, but they'll probably not be in estates. So they might just be like in open homes, like on the road. Everybody sees you driving, but everywhere in Ibadan is, you know, almost safe. So now for 2 to 3 bedroom apartments moving forward, you, for developed areas, Jericho, Bodija, Onireke, Ring Road, Oluyole, you cannot budget less than Akobo. There's Kolapo Ishola. You have to budget between 300k to 600,000 naira for 2 to 4 bedroom apartments. So for 2 bedrooms, you can still be getting it for 300,000, 350. Then 3 bedroom, you get it for 350, 400. Then 4 bedrooms from 400, 500. If you in places like Jericho, Onireke, you probably get 4 bedrooms for like 600k. And in you know, developing areas, you can still get 3 to 4 bedroom for 250,000 naira. Yeah, between 200 to 250,000 naira, you will get your accommodation. Wow, this video seems like it's gonna be a long one because we have talked a lot about accommodation, but that's like the longest topic. Also, for accommodation, you need to know that this amounts I said are for like the subsequent years, but for your first year you have to pay agency fee, caution fee, lawyer agreement, and a lot of other stuff. So it might be a little bit more expensive than the actual rent, so almost like 30% of your rent. So the next thing, we are going to move to transportation. Now, one of the cheapest thing in Ibadan is the means of transportation. So I am going to base the transportation based on you having a car and you not having a car. So my budget for your daily transportation, let's say home to work, to and fro, 150 naira to, 150 naira fro, that's 300 naira per day. Now that's how, if your house is, if your workplace is close to home. So 300 times 30 days, that's 9,000 naira in a month. Now that's if your, you know, your office is not very far from work. But if your office is far from work, we might be calculating like 250 to 250 fro, that's 500 naira times 30, that's 15,000 naira. So we'll calculate transportation between 9,000 naira to 15,000 naira, depending on how far your place of work is. And I feel like for an average, you know, salary earner of 100,000 naira or 80,000 naira or 70,000 naira, if you still spend 15,000 on transportation, I feel like it's still, you know, it's still okay. It's still reasonable, because in some other places, you know, that people spend more than 30 to 40,000 naira on transportation in a month. So we are going to budget for transportation, if you do not have a car, public transportation, 9,000 naira to 15,000 naira. Now, people that have rights for your private car, personal cars, I used my sister and I, like, for like examples. My sister used a Corolla, so now it also depends on the kind of car that you have. My sister used a Corolla, I use an Acura. My car drinks fuel, but my sister's car has amazing fuel consumption. So my sister's car, my sister used 5,000 naira fuel every week. Now she lives in Akala and her workplace is at Akpata. That's like, I don't know how to calculate the kilometers or meters, but it's really far from each other. Not like very far, but it is quite far from each other. And you know, she goes to work, pick up her children, goes to her shop, you know, a pharmacy too, and she spends 5,000 naira in a week, at least 5,000 naira. Some days maybe you have like to run a lot of errands, you might spend more than that, so that's 20,000 naira per week. But me, when I calculate my fuel, I use at least 8,000 naira per week, especially if I go out every day in a week, I use nothing less than 8,000 naira per week. So 8,000 times 4, that's 32,000 naira. Transportation for someone that has a private car is between 20,000 naira to 32,000 naira. Now the next on my list is feeding, but I don't really want to like make a projection or budget or estimation on feeding, because feeding is like subjected or relative to each individual, your palate, the kind of food you want to eat. A lot of people know how to budget, know how to do budget cooking, and some people cook in in bulk. So cooking for people, especially like a family of 4, could be as cheap as 15,000 naira per week to 50,000 naira per week, because depends on if you use supermarket and someone that buys in the market, the comfort shopping, if you shop in the malls and stuff, your children's Bonvita, some people, their children, they give them just 50 naira Hollandia yogurt, and some people give their children 100 naira or 200 naira Lucozade Boost. So I can't say. And also some people eat at local restaurants, some people eat at high-end restaurants. So I cannot say this is exactly how much you should budget for food. But just, especially if you have lived in Nigeria before, just know that if you have lived in Nigeria before, you can actually tell how much you will use to feed. Just know that Ibadan at least is a little bit relatively cheaper. Why am I using the word relatively a lot today? It's a little bit cheaper than other states, other cities in Nigeria. So that's that about feeding. So feeding is about your palate, what the kind of food you want to eat. It's just like in some bars in Ibadan, they sell drink as cheap as 200 naira for beer, and some places they sell beer as much as 700 naira, depending on the kind of place you want to go to. So that's that about feeding and entertainment. So I'm just going to put that aside. Like, I don't want to talk about that because I cannot budget how you entertain yourself for you. But I just want you to know that if they sell it, just try. If you've lived in Lagos or other states, I think Lagos is one of the most expensive, or Abuja or places like Port Harcourt, just try and think like, if you buy something for 5,000 there, you might be able to get it for like 3,000 naira in Ibadan. So that's about feeding and entertainment. So now let's go to education. For people that wants to start a family here, for people that want to raise their children here. Okay, so we are going to start with, let's say, the crèche. How do I say this? Some are monthly, like the payment is monthly, because some crèche is not like the primary or not primary school that has like a school calendar. So sometimes some parents pick their children as early as 2 p.m. Some parents pick their children as early as as late as 5 p.m. So depending on the crèche, there are monthly ones. There are some that are like three months, and there are some that are for like 6 months. So I can't really tell you, but I think at least for 6 months you can pay is up to, at least for 6 months there are crèche that you pay 50,000 naira for your children. But let's go to primary and secondary education. Now for primary schools in Ibadan, if you want your children to go to private schools, standard schools, now there are schools in developing area that actually give great education, but because of the area that they had, they might not be able to like say the price, because the price they are paying for rent is cheaper, or for the building is cheaper from someone that is going to school to a big school in Jericho or in Oluyole. Now there are a lot of big schools, and when I ask that how much is their school fee, is actually a lot. So for primary school, let me not beat around the bush. In developing areas, you can get school fee for as cheap as 30,000 naira to 40,000 naira for primary school in developing areas. Okay, like areas like some areas like I said, like Elebu, let's say some part of Akobo, all this Ashi, they are close to Bodija. These areas are like extensions. The developing area are called extensions. So they are extensions of the developed areas. But standard school in a developed area in Ibadan, the school fee is from 60,000 naira to 100,000 naira for primary school student. Now, sometimes it's even more than 100,000 naira, up to 150,000, depending on the kind of school you want to take your children to. But for primary school, so you can get primary education for your child in good standard school from, let's say, 40,000 naira to 100,000 naira. Like my sister's children, they are in primary schools and they pay up to 100,000 naira per session, not per term, per session, and I think that's per annum. And for secondary school also, secondary schools in Ibadan, good private secondary school, standard secondary school, your children might pay from 100,000 naira to 250,000 naira. There are actually secondary school in Ibadan that the school fee are up to 500,000 naira. There are schools like Life Alt, I think their school fees is even more than 500,000 naira. It's one of like the biggest, in fact I think it's like the biggest school in Ibadan. The school is amazing. I've taken some kids there before, and no, this one's I don't even think they know that they are schooling in Nigeria. So it's quite expensive, but you have good education for your children. So but the ones that for average Nigerians like us, they are the secondary schools between, let's say, from 80,000 naira to 200,000 naira. That's like the highest you can get, and the least you might get for a good standard school that you would like the environment for your child. You should budget at least 80,000 naira. So what's the next on my list? Now, other expenses like electricity, you know, your data, your cable. I feel like electricity in Ibadan is one of the cheapest electricity that I know of. Okay, well, I know electricity in Ibadan is really cheaper than that of Lagos. These days now, I see like bills from people that live, like, you know, for IEDC, Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company. People are getting bill as much as, for duplex, 5-room duplex, as much as 500,000, 250,000. Well, I see them on social media. But I know in Ibadan, if you have a duplex, but if I talk now, let IBGC not go and increase their tariff, because they have actually increased their tariff. But I think like for a duplex in Ibadan, the highest you probably get as much as 45,000 naira. Now if you live alone, like in a, maybe you live in a self-contained or in a room and parlor, and your house, like, you know, they've given everybody their meter, because you know they have done enumeration and everybody is a customer now. So if you have like your own bill, they will probably give you like, let's say, estimated billing. If you do not have prepaid meter, they will give you like almost 15,000 naira. But let me not talk. But a lot of people do not pay that because it's estimated billing. They don't, there's no way they can really calculate that this is how many units this person used. So a lot of people do not pay like the exact amount of estimated billing, but you have to pay. So some people will pay like 8,000 naira, 7,000 naira on their bill. But if you have a prepaid meter for like a self-con 2-bedroom apartment, if you know how to like conserve energy very well, and you don't just switch on your lights and leave it, you can use as less as 7,000 naira electricity, 8,000 naira electricity in a month, which I feel like is really good. So for data, I don't think I can say this is how much you would use for data, because a lot of people have different things they use with their internet. You can imagine someone that is a software engineer and someone that, and a nurse. A nurse does not really need like data for you know, like medicine is not something that is digital. I don't know if I'm saying the right word. Like it uses technology, not like digital, that it needs internet or stuff like that. So a nurse or a doctor can subscribe as less as 5,000 naira in a month, and a software engineer, a computer engineer can use as much as 30,000 naira data. Like me now, I use like 30 to 35,000 naira data. If I tell someone else, they'll be like, which work are you doing? But I have to use data to upload. Then for cable, I think that one is a fixed price for Nigeria, like DSTV. I think the family cable bouquet is like 4,100. Me, I've not even been subscribing to it. I have too much expenses. Plus, I don't sit in my sitting room. I'm always in my room. I film in my room, I edit in my room. So I just sit in the sitting room. Maybe I just want to sit there. So most times I don't subscribe on my DSTV. But I know that the family, the one I used to do if I want to subscribe, is 4,200, and that's for family bouquet. So there's 12,000 naira on, there's 17,000 naira on. Now depends on how rich you are. Then for some people who can afford, you know, Go TV, and Go TV is as cheap as I think 2,000 or 2,500 something. So yeah, that's for that on cable. Now there are miscellaneous, like generator, backup electricity. You service your generator, and you know, in Ibadan, if you want to service generator, you can give your generator guy, after he service it, as less as 500 naira, 800 naira, 1,000 naira. I know when I lived in Lagos, said that the man came gone. That was before, this like 2012, 2013, 2014. No, if you do not give them 1,015, it's fight, they will not come again. But in Ibadan, if you give your electrician or these people, like even if it's 1,000 naira, 500 naira, they will take it. And if it is like, if they did more work than that, they would bill you for that. But it's just relatively cheaper, so your miscellaneous are not really going to be crazy, especially from Andy work Andy men. What do they call these people? Work wàhálà dé o, English oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́, what, Jesus, well, I think you get like people, electricians, painters and all that. Why am I forgetting the word? This is so embarrassing. But yeah, so these people charge, you know, lesser at least, and they do good jobs. Because, but people feel like because people charge lesser, their job is not good enough. But well, that's their loss, because these people charge less. Like, I feel like on miscellaneous, you should just keep at least in a month, or just at all na im bad price, especially especially if you, like, you know, you're someone that is living comfortably, you have a car, you have a generator, you have like a lot of appliances at home. You might save at least 10,000 naira for miscellaneous, you know, for your mechanic and all that stuff. I think that's even a lot, but just to be on the safer side. So I think that's what I can say on this, you know, on this topic for now. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and you know, I'll see you in my next one. Peace guys, I love you, thanks for watching, bye.